if you're after a car that's the perfect mix of practical and reliable, then may I introduce you to the Honda Jazz e-HEV. Now, I'm sure you've heard the name Honda Jazz before. It's very much a household name on the car market, and if this car was a TV show, it'd certainly be Coronation Street, because although it doesn't provide a thrilling and world-class performance, it's certainly reliable in providing that bit of comfort in your life. Because what this car may lack in terms of high-tech and accelerating performance, it certainly makes up in a lot of areas. And from prices starting from just £28,000, it's a great all-round runabout vehicle. If you want to find out more and see our latest offers on the Honda Jazz, then check out Riverside Honda. Now, as a bit of a car enthusiast myself who loves high-performing cars and seeing the advancement of car tech, the Honda Jazz wouldn't necessarily be the car of my choosing, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be yours, and it doesn't mean that this isn't a great all-round car. Over the years, the Jazz has been quietly ticking away in the car market, keeping its head above water, and with this updated design and updated powertrain, because now the Honda Jazz is a hybrid, it's revamped a household name to keep up with the times to make it more modern. And I think the overall look is pretty smart. It's quite modest, it's quite cute. You have this newly installed front grille and this accentuated bumper, the same sort of style headlights what you've seen on previous Jazzes, but I do think it's an all-round smart car. And with the Jazz, Honda haven't just made a smart looking car. They made a car that's also smart on the inside because of that upgraded hybrid powertrain, and also the reliability factor, the practicality, and also the abundance of safety features that you get with this car. Yes, it might not be mind-blowing in terms of what it can provide you, but it will certainly get to where you need to in a safe and reasonable manner. And although on the exterior this may seem like just an everyday small hatchback, it certainly has a lot to give in so many areas. But before I go any further, just thought I'd say, look at that for a view. Yorkshire, you're doing yourself proud. Now back to the Honda Jazz, and the rear design kind of complements the front in that it's quite modest, but it certainly is smart. The one key thing that I'm looking at, the striking feature of this, is the size of the rear window. It's essentially 50% of the back of this car. And that just shows how practical this car can be and actually how safe. Now when it comes to boot space, and it's still a reasonable size with 304 litres, which on paper doesn't sound like a lot, but if you look across the car industry at small hatchbacks, then it certainly keeps its head above water, and it's certainly not one of the lowest. With class counterparts in the Kia Picanto, Mini Cooper and the Toyota Yaris, all providing smaller boot space. So style and boot space aside, what is the Jazz like out on the roads? The Honda Jazz doesn't provide a thrilling performance really at all. 0 to 60 time of 9.5 seconds, kind of on the lower end of the pay scale when it comes to speed in the hatchback category. But the Jazz isn't to provide a thrilling performance. It never has been. I don't think it ever will do, because it does what it does perfectly. By being a safe all-round hatchback that you can always count on, it's always going to be that household name that you just have that sense of comfort with. And I think the Honda Jazz really maximises that well. And the Jazz certainly isn't a hairdryer in the sense that it's not that slow that it's completely unusable. Because of that hybrid system, you do get a decent amount of torque off the line. By torque, I mean when you're pulling out on the junction, you get that bit of quick acceleration. So it is still rather practical in that sense. But where the Honda Jazz may fall down in terms of speed and precision, it certainly makes up in its economics, because the Honda Jazz produces 62 miles per gallon. And that efficiency is where the Jazz excels, because it's efficient in the way it uses its fuel, helping save you money. And it's also efficient in the way it maximises the space in the interior. Because the Jazz is actually class leading when it comes to its cabin space, and you don't need to research about the facts and figures and get all the measurements to see it with your own eyes, because you can see the views to space well. Storage compartments both here and your usual glove box space. Cup holders, not just in the centre console, but both within arm's reach. A nice space to keep, wallet, phone when it's charging or connected to your infotainment screen. Decent little bit of storage here, loose change, that sort of thing, and a nice safe compartment there. In the centre you have your infotainment touchscreen, and it comes with all the usual DAB radio, built-in sat-nav and wireless CarPlay and Android Auto, which comes from standard. I do like the fact that it's part touchscreen. You then also have separate dials, shortcut buttons to go to home, back, your volume controls, your channel controls, which are also on your leather wrap steering wheel. And it's the same with the climate controls. They're all separate dials. They're not in this infotainment system. You get a digital dash, which is part digital dash, part kind of old school with, you know, the dials at the side, but it serves its purpose. Now, this model that I'm currently sat in is the Advance, which is the mid-spec, and it is a rather nice finish. And you have the contrasting patterns, materials, colours in your centre console. The seats is part leather, part fabric upholstery, and even though it's a mid-spec, you couldn't really tell. I think that's one of the key areas that really Honda have excelled with the Jazz, is the spec levels. Because I think Honda have been very clever and sensible and also reasonable when it comes to the specs and pricing of this car. Across the three specs of the Honda Jazz, I mean, you do have the fourth one of the Crossstar, but if you just look at purely Honda Jazz, then it starts from £28,000 and goes up to £30,500, so there's only £2,500 from the base and the top spec. So you think, how have they done that? Well, essentially they've provided a base spec that still comes with rear parking cameras, eco mode, adaptive cruise control, wireless CarPlay and Android also, and an abundance of safety features. When you go up the specs, that's when you start getting them premium style features. Heated seats and steering wheel come from the mid spec. When you get up to the top spec, you get that full leather and part suede interior. The mid and top spec also have 16-inch alloy wheels, whereas the base spec comes with 15-inch. So across them three specs, you're still getting the same powertrain that still performs exactly the same, providing that good economical drive. It is merely just stylistic features, and if you want them more premium features, it kind of depends how you're going to use the Jazz. If you're going to go on longer drives and you're going to be driving a lot more, then add on them premium features. You just need a cheap runabout vehicle that you know isn't going to have any problems. £28,000 for the base spec, rather good. I come to the back, it's kind of the same old story when it comes to space in the Jazz, because you wouldn't think you sat at the back of a small hatchback. There's plenty of legroom. There's an almost completely flat floor, which means even if you had someone in the middle, they're not going to be awkwardly like having the knees up to the chin because there's that awkward bit lip in the middle. It's pretty flat, so they're still going to be very comfy. Alright amount of storage, a small pocket in your door, 2 USB-C ports in the centre, no air vents, that would have been an added bonus, but beggars can't be choosers. Now, another feature in the back of the Honda Jazz, which you can see why they get that class leading cabin space title from, is the addition of what Honda call magic seats. Now, they're not necessarily magical. I'd say they're a bit more unique to what you find on the market because you can actually lift them up and lock them in place. So if you only have one passenger in the back, lift this up, lock it, and you get plenty of storage there. Do you have young children that are ISOFIX points in the back? And overall, it's just a nice place to be. Obviously, being the mid-spec, you get that rear privacy glass. But the fact you do get things like the econ mode, you know, the energy saving driving mode with that base spec. You also get things like parking cameras, wireless CarPlay, and still a rather good looking interior. It's a very well-rounded hatchback. As mentioned, you have them windows to the left and right, which you don't really see on other cars on the market, especially not in hatchbacks. And I just think you can see so much more. The visibility in the Jazz is second to none. Your infotainment screen's all very user-friendly when you're out on the road because it's slightly tilted. It kind of reduces the glare that you're going to get, which is kind of more glare than what you would in a normal car because of these side windows. So that's practical. The fact your climate controls are all a separate instrument panel, so you're not having to faff around going in the screen. Even your heated seat controls are in that instrument panel. When it comes to the heated steering wheel, well, that is on your actual steering wheel. Makes sense. And I think the Jazz is the epitome of the phrase makes sense, because that's what it does. The design, the price, the economical value all makes perfect sense. So yes, with the Honda Jazz, you're not going to be whipping it round A roads on a sunny day, having loads of fun. I'll tell you what, over the course of the year, the 2 years, the 3 years, it'll save you a lot of money with that fuel economy. And ultimately, be really comfortable and not have any problems when it comes to this car. So overall, don't really have any complaints. It'd be nicer if it had a bit more zippiness off the line, but I think the Honda Jazz is more of an everyday runabout, but also it can be great on the motorway because of that great fuel economy. Now, it may not be the car for me, but it could quite easily be the car for you. So if you want to find out more, then contact Riverside Honda.